October 15th Board of Education meeting. Ms. Reed, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gardner.
Here.
Mrs. Magdalena.
Here.
Mrs. Opaskar.
Here.
Mr. Sherbet.
Here.
Mr. Stobie.
Here. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we only have one special presentation today on our food service. Here. Come on up.
You're going to have to speak in the mic because we're recording them now.
So this is our food service annual presentation update. Oop. The wrong one there. The bottom one.
The right.
So what's current food service news? We had our first cooking classes with students this year. We started at Eastview Elementary. It's a 5-week series, free cooking classes right after school. We had such a large interest in it that we were only going to do 1 day a week. And we ended up doing 2 classes. So we did Mondays and Tuesdays right after school. The kids loved it. We did 3 recipes that evening. They made a smoothie. They made some kind of bakery, and then we did like an egg sandwich or an egg burrito or whatever. And then every week was something different. So Chef Amy and then a food service worker would help the kids do all the recipes. I got to work it a couple nights. It was actually really cool. The kids were really engaged. They loved it. They had one favorite thing to do. I don't know if anybody can guess what they love to do with the recipes.
Eat the food.
Well, besides eating the food, they all love to crack the eggs.
Oh.
And they were really good at it. We had from kindergarten to 4th grade. So I thought it was a very positive thing. We're starting at Redwood next week, and it filled up so fast. I had a Google sheet. I had to turn out the responses within, I don't know, an hour. And that filled up 2 days. So that's one good thing food services got going. I'm having my first administrative review this year. They're going to do the high school in Westview for the on-site review. This is where they'll come in. They'll make sure every lunch that goes through has the right components on it for reimbursable lunch. Check our recipes, and then of course they're going to check on my end, make sure I have all my ducks in a row. We had a very successful auction that we had a sale for a lot of unused equipment that was used in all 7 schools that was just sitting there not being used. So we profited over $8,000 selling unused equipment. Participation this year, actually with it being low with the school enrollment, 4 out of the 7 schools are up in lunch participation this year. Our free reduced students are up this year from 458 last year to 497. And then with the new online applications, I only had to do 15 paper applications this year, which saved me a lot of time. So that was a good decrease. So stay compliant with offer versus serve. So with that, we offer 5 components to make up a reimbursable lunch: a milk, protein, grain, and fruit and vegetable. So all students must have at least 3 out of 5 components offered on their tray, and one of those must be at least a half a cup of fruit or vegetable. All our snacks are smart snacks, so we actually have a calculator that we can plug in all of the calories and salt and fat to make sure it's a smart snack food. So this is how we stay compliant that way, and then all our menus are done through Masonic partners, and that also keeps us compliant with our calories, our salt, sugar intake. So plans for the future, I'm hoping I did try for the grant and didn't successfully get any, but hydroponic towers are the new hot thing in schools. And I would love to get one in each school and grow our own greens. We can grow actually anything from lettuce to herbs and then have the kids involved in helping with those towers. I would love to revisit the recycling program that we had. When I first became supervisor, we had Rust Belt Riders in 2019-20. And then COVID hit, and then we were unable to be able to afford it anymore. But I've looked into other programs that they have more self-sustaining, that's stuff that we could own as food service, like compost dehydrators. They're a little pricey, but if we could make our own dirt and then share our dirt with the community, I think that would be a positive thing. They also have styrofoam compactors and stuff, but we don't use styrofoam trays, we use the biodegradable ones. So those are some things for the future plans, hopefully soon food service can accomplish. So that's all food service has for tonight. I promise I'd keep it short and sweet. So.
With the grants that you were talking about, were those federal grants that you were trying to get, the hydroponic towers, or is that state money, or where do you go to try to apply for that money?
They had it was farm to table, or it had to do with, I believe it was the state, but unfortunately, they usually pick the schools that have higher pre-reduced students. Yeah.
What are the costs of the towers, do you know?
Like $5,000 each. Dehydrators aren't cheap either. But I'll still try for grants and see if we can get some stuff that way.
Any other questions?
No, I'm just disappointed about the Rust Belt Riders thing. I didn't realize that was such an expensive business proposition. I worked with Daniel Brown, the CEO, a lot when he was standing that up.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of doing it on our own, but it just requires so much land for the operation. Yeah.
Plus it was hard to regulate the contamination for the kids from
Oh, yeah.
we started at the high school. I think we should have started at elementary. Yeah, you throw all the wrong stuff in it, and then they were going to start charging us for all the stuff that's not supposed to be in there, and they're probably theirs, and we're using all our waste. So we'll see. It's something like that in the future.
All right. Thanks, Andrea. Appreciate you coming tonight.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda is public participation, and public participation at our board meetings is permitted to allow members of the public to address the board on issues of public concern and is not intended as a forum for extended conversation. The primary role of the board is to listen and reflect on your comments. Sometimes board members may respond or ask questions, but not always. Whether or not we respond, your input is valued. The public participation is for general comments on matters relevant to the school district. Those who wish to address the board must complete a comment card and give to Dr. Debe. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak until a total time of 30 minutes is used. I did want to mention today with our public comment, though, last month we had a significant presentation about where we were at with our budget and some of the proposed cuts, and we entertained questions, some dialogue after that point. We also had a community forum, State of the Schools address, where we did some Q&A. So I wanted to make sure that if there's any folks here today that still had comments on the information that we shared last month about what might happen if our levies don't pass, or any other questions related to those levies, that you had a chance to fill out a card and come speak to us tonight, and we can hopefully answer those questions. So Dr. Debe, did anyone fill out a card?
I do not have anyone yet.
Is there anyone in the audience? I know we have a small crowd tonight, so not putting anyone on the spot. Okay, thank you. All right, next we'll move on to the business part of our agenda tonight. It's actually a fairly short agenda. The first item is our approval and signing of the minutes for our September 17th meeting. Did anyone have any changes to those minutes? Okay, if so, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the September meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mrs. Gardner,
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina,
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar,
Yes.
Mr. Sherbin,
Yes.
Mr. Stobie.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Next, we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
For your consideration tonight, we do have some treasurer consent items, many of which are normal business for our regular monthly board meetings. We do have a transfer on for tonight. It's the class of 2023. They had a balance in their account of a little over $1,200 that they're donating to the class of 2026. So outside of that item, we have some standard contracts. We have a contract with USA Mobile Drug Testing, Connect Service Agreement. We also have an agreement with Effective Leadership Academy. As well as we have 2 swimming contracts on for this year, one with Oberlin College and the other with the YMCA of Greater Cleveland. And that is all of my treasurer's consent items. I think this is like my shortest
That is the
agenda of the
shortest.
year.
And what, could you walk through what the Effective Leadership Academy item is at a high level?
It's a program that we've participated in at the high school for the last several years, and basically we have 4 students that they select each year who go through the program. It's done at LCCC, and most of the Southwest Conference schools participate in it.
Okay. Have those students been identified yet, or are we still in the application
No,
process?
they were waiting to make sure that this got.
Okay, great.
Is that 4 per grade? So 16 total?
I believe it's always juniors and seniors.
Okay. And when is the program, what is the duration of the program start and end?
It runs for a school year, so each school year, different kids cycle through it. But
Okay.
they meet, I believe, once a quarter.
Okay. I believe last time they came and gave a presentation, or we had an update of sorts. Can we, towards the tail end, can we have the kids that are participating come and share their
Absolutely.
experience
Yep.
with the community and the board?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the treasurer's consent items? All right, can I have a motion to approve the treasurer's consent items?
I so move.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mrs. Opaskar,
Yes.
Mr. Sherbin,
Yes.
Mrs. Gardner,
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina,
Yes.
Mr. Stobie.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
So we have no treasurer's discussion items, so we can go right to the superintendent's consent items.
Thank you. For your consideration this evening, we have item A, front of the schools, which are donations listed there on your screen. We have certified personnel recommendations, classified personnel recommendations, some supplemental recommendations, a leave of absence, return date that we're asking for approval, a previously approved item that was just a revision. We have several kids on our current track and field that participate in the wintertime in indoor track and field, so this approval is just to allow them to wear our uniforms and represent Avon Lake, and our model UN trips that will happen throughout this school year.
Looks like they're going to LCC, Chicago, and then another contest at Case Western. All right.
And 95,000 from the boosters. So
Yeah.
Learwood Middle
Yeah,
School track.
definitely do not want to gloss over that. We appreciate the contributions for the boosters for our middle school track improvement and for the athletic director supplies that they're contributing for the high school and for Learwood.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the consent items? No. Okay, I have a motion to approve those items.
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mrs. Gardner,
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar,
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina,
Yes.
Mr. Sherbin,
Yes.
Mr. Stobie.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mrs. Baker, anything else that you want to share with us?
Just to keep open the date of November 13th, we're going to be doing our first Take Back Togetherness evening where we cancel everything school that evening. So no homework, no studying for tests, no practices, no play practices. And it's just a night to really embrace being with family. We ask families to put down their devices and just spend an evening in conversation. It's part of our just thinking about everyone's mental health, not only our staffs, but our students as well. Everyone needs a break. And so this is just a way that the school can provide that needed break that our kids and our staff so desperately need by just kind of shutting down school for the night. We're going to be working or talking to the rec department at the City of Avon Lake to see if they too would participate and cancel their practices so that kids don't feel like they have this night off of homework, but yet they still have to go to some other activities that they belong to. So working through that, we'll have some additional information on that. And through that, we also had an evening with our coaches last week where we brought every single one of our coaches together that coached in fall, winter, or spring sports. We had a session with our attorneys really about the do's and don'ts. And some people don't realize that even our coaches, even if they're not teachers in our district, are still subject to the code of conduct by the Ohio Department of Education, or the DEW, excuse me. And so we wanted to make sure that they understood what that meant legally, and then Dale and I set some expectations too, under the idea that, you know, we want our kids need a mental health break. Our kids need breaks, period. And there's a reason there's a 5-day work week and not a 7-day work week, and that should carry over into practices, that there's no reason that kids need to be practicing with their teams 7 days a week. So kind of set some expectations moving forward on what we expect, and to make sure that our kids are getting that rest they so desperately need to, even in their extracurricular activities.
How was that message received?
50-50. If I'm going to be honest, I think our coaches that are currently educators and teachers, you know, understand and appreciate that. I think it was a little eye-opening to maybe some of our staff members that are not teachers as a profession, and so I think there was a lot of things that they didn't realize. So.
On that point, I know I've gotten the question before about how does it work when a coaching position is open versus our staff, and I guess my understanding has always been that the position is posted internally for folks who might be interested, who are staff members, and then depending on if they're not qualified or whatever, then the secondary is to go outside. But it seems like at least half of our coaching positions or more are probably from our own teaching positions.
Sure. So the coaching positions are negotiated through our teaching agreement. So they are the teachers' positions first. So they do get posted each year and season for our staff members to take advantage of. And then any position that is not filled through that internal process, we then look outside.
Yeah. And I think one of the things about coaching that is difficult too is, you know, not all sports are created equal, and not all sports are friendly from the standpoint of coaching high school athletes based on the timing. Folks who have, you know, the folks who choose to be coaches choose to do it for a lot of positive reasons, but it is a huge sacrifice working within the constraints of, you know, coming after school, dealing with away games. I know every time I see our coaches, I'm always appreciative of all the effort they do, because there's just a lot to balance within the schedule, as well as all the academic and the other priorities that have to get balanced with their student athletes. So I'm glad that we continue to emphasize the right behaviors with those coaches, and also support them so they understand what the rules are, because it is a lot. It's a lot of responsibility.
Can I go back to your comment on the mental health balance? So do we have a clear expectation of how many days a week a team should be practicing together?
We set the expectation that it should be no more than 6.
Okay, and that'll be monitored?
We plan to monitor it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And many of our student athletes are wrapping up their fall seasons and getting into playoffs, or have already started the playoffs, so good luck to all those who are participating. Does anyone from the board have anything else that you want to discuss tonight?
No, but if I may, does anyone have anything that else? Yes. In the audience, I was just thinking, I know this has been a short meeting, the shortest meeting I've ever been in.
Good.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
So I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't really hear it, so it's just kind of, would like to go over what we have given to the schools as the Avon Lake Athletic Boosters so far this year.
Please.
The first one, we all voted on membership and the board was to give a uniform budget for $55,000. This will be presented to the Avon Lake Athletic Boosters by the AD, and then the AD will directly pay the vendors for $55,000. The second thing we approved was a capital grant for $50,000 to go to the Learwood Middle School track. The third thing we approved was the athletic director grant, $35,000 to the high school and $10,000 to the middle school. And the last thing we did, or not the last thing, and the last group that we already paid for was booster team accounts. So each team will get an account, and each athlete will get $25, and it's approximately $26,800 for the high school athletes. They can use it for banquets or whatever comes up for their coaches. The middle school teams will get $10. Each student will get $10 in their account, which is roughly $3,800. This is based on 29 team accounts, and this will fluctuate depending on the athletes. We also paid T3 training of $45,000, and huddle filming, which is $13,000. In the beginning of the school year, during locker setup for Learwood, my daughter, I found out that Learwood Middle School basketball, 7th and 8th grade boys and girls were sharing uniforms. One set of uniforms between girls and boys. So I talked to Nori and I said, let the boosters help you. And he said, we would love that. So I talked to Joelle and she said, yes, please gift it. So we got it in on time. Nori did a great job with that. And the Learwood basketball uniforms, they'll be 6th grade or 7th grade and 8th grade girls and boy uniforms this year, which counted for $95,000 or $9,595, which is total so far this year of $244,395 that the boosters have given to the athletic department at the schools, just to start. So, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for stepping up and giving that detailed overview. And can you do that all the time throughout the year? Because this is fantastic and it's happy news, and the fact that the money is flowing the way it is. Thank you to you and the boosters, and please everyone, thank you. Aaron, pass it on. This is fantastic.
Great.
Thank you. It's huge.
Anything else? All right, could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mr. Sherbin?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvina?
Yes.
Mrs. Gardner?
Yes.
Mrs. Opaskar?
Yes.
Mr. Stobie?
Yes. Thank you all for attending.
Motion carries and the meeting is adjourned at 6:23.